welcome. Good morning. So glad to have you. I'm Mary Beth. I'll be your service leader today. Is it loud? My pronouns are she and her. At this time, if you could please silence all the devices, anything that makes noises,
Help you out with
that would be great. And while they're doing that, I wanted to mention the chalice lighting with the Advent candles that we've been lighting this month and the chalice lighting that we light every Sunday. Just wanted to give you guys maybe some food for thought, share some words that Nancy gave me, just about how powerful the flames can be, candles in general. I mean, I think I read somewhere that you can see a candle in the darkness for up to, I don't know, like 30 miles or something. I might be getting that wrong, but it's a really far distance that you can see that light. So sometimes, I don't know, maybe this week or before Christmas, just light a candle and think about how all-encompassing it is, how it represents so many different things. Basically, all religions light a candle for something, whether it be death or birth, resurrection, hope. So it's just a powerful thing, and also they're just pretty. So to share some words that Nancy gave me, it says, "We light the chalice not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our minds." And that's Louis E. Van Leer that wrote that. So maybe light a candle for something that's special to you this week. And Michael, if you could come up, speaking of lighting candles, and we'll have you light the Advent candle and speak to that.
Yeah, the theme for the third of Advent is joy.
So with that, in the spirit of lighting and calming and beauty, let's just take a deep breath in and out. And we are super excited to have Chris here, Chris Saunders, sorry. Yes. Aren't we blessed? So he's going to play the holly and the ivy for us while we calm, center ourselves.
That was the holly and the ivy, as requested by me. And Chris was so gracious to listen and obviously be able to play it. The holly and the ivy was originally written as a pagan song. And as we know, many times, other religions adapt the songs. So when you listen to the original, It is about the changing of the seasons and the running of the deer and the return of the light at winter solstice. And somehow it always seems to gravitate for me at this time of the year. And the beauty of the words, if you have a chance to listen to it, is well worth it, and YouTube is always available. The next song that we're going to stand and sing together on page 221 is called Light One Candle. And this is in honor of what we will be celebrating next week also, the lighting of the menorah and the Maccabee children. And the choir will join us because this is a tricky song to sing, and they will guide us through this menagerie.
You'll stand and say the covenant with us. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. You may be seated.
This story, or this history, is really a about a song that we all know. It's near and dear to our hearts. I don't think we ever go through this season without singing it at least once. And for sure, you'll hear it. And it's often equated to things that children learn early in life, like Happy Birthday. Who doesn't sing that? And songs that are repeated throughout the year. But this one is always at the holidays. Everyone knows it, and we just can't help ourselves with this familiar tune, and our bodies often just move to the song. Legend says that the song made its debut in 1850 in Medford, Massachusetts, composed by James Lord Pierpont. Pierpont was a native of the town and wanted to write something to commemorate the town's annual sleigh rides around Thanksgiving. Historians have cast some doubt on that date, since it's recorded that Pierpont had relocated to Savannah, Georgia by that time. But nonetheless, there's a plaque in Medford Town Square saluting Pierpont's songwriting achievement. He published the song in 1857 under the title One Horse Open Sleigh. It had 3 verses, in addition to the one we typically sing today, and details a young couple who go riding and tip their sleigh off in a snowdrift. As its popularity increased, the song became simply known as Jingle Bells, referring to the jolly refrain. And I'm hoping that each of you have a song sheet. Woo! And if you don't have one, if you raise your hand, perhaps we can give you one. We have a couple people that need one. Oh, thank you. Perfect. It was first recorded on Edison cylinder, and I don't know what an Edison cylinder is, in 1889. Today it would be called YouTube. And while that recording no longer exists, the second one from 1898 can still be found online. So we will sing the children out with this song. And it's on your song sheet, and the children probably don't need a song sheet because they absolutely know the words, at least the refrain. So. Through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, make these spirits bright. What fun it is to laugh and sing a sleigh song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon this fanny bride will see by my side. The horse was lean and lame, misfortune seemed his lot. We got into a drifting lane, then we got upside. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh.
Y'all sound great. That was awesome. You should all be in the choir, right? Yeah. Yep. So now it's time for the offertory. And just as a reminder, this is a fully funded by the member church. So anything you are willing and able to give would be much appreciated. I know it's tough this time of year with gifts and everything, but try your best, and we appreciate you no matter what.
I don't know about you, but having the piano with Chris Saunders is a breath of fresh air for me. And I feel like we have been starved for the live music coming from the piano. Our voices are beautiful, our guitar music is beautiful, our drum music is beautiful. But there is something about a grand piano that's played well. Not by us who don't know how to play it. And obviously Chris knows. We have two joys and sorrows today. Hugh Ed wants to talk about and light a candle of joy, the Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equity Index regarding the LGBTQIA+ inclusive laws are as described in the 1217 in the Pensacola News Journal on the 7th of December. Pensacola was not indexed, but many larger cities were. And this is a bonus to Pensacola. Thank you. And James Brockway has a sorrow of losing their cat, Oliver, who died recently, and a joy of being able to see cousin Aubrey and her family for Christmas, so family joining. And we'll light one candle for those things that are on your hearts and minds, and perhaps you didn't get written and sent in the basket that we think of today.
Should I introduce you?
You can.
She needs no introduction. But I'll give her one anyway. This is Nancy will be bringing our message today. Aren't we grateful for her?
Sunday services, I have to say there's about 6 or 8 of us that meet periodically to work on creating a calendar of services appropriate for our congregation. And when we were talking about December, for me, it's important to have music in December. somehow that time of the year rises to the occasion of I have the radio on more, I listen to YouTube more, but the songs come on whether you want to or not. I can remember my brother he actually worked at Neiman Marcus, and on Christmas Day I wanted to play Christmas songs. He says, "Oh, please, please, no." So there's an appreciation for the overload, perhaps, of Christmas songs as well. But I want to introduce this service based on actually the seasons, the cycle of the seasons. And interesting enough, the pagan calendar has the solstices and the equinox, and in between that there are 4 celebrations. And all of them are part of our 7th principle. When we honor the interdependent of all existence. And it was a long time ago that there wasn't a calendar in writing, and there wasn't an awareness of January, February, March in those terms. But it was an awareness of the sun. It was awareness of the sun going dark and also returning. And at this time of the year, the winter solstice, which is celebrated on the 21st or 22nd, is identified as the longest night of the year, the greatest darkness that we will have. And in that process, they celebrated it specifically about the returning of the sun, because the sun begins to return at that time of the year as well, the next day within the next 24 hours, and you will gradually see it begin to return. And so there are all kinds of rituals and all kinds of honoring of gods and goddesses of returning of the sun. And so it goes way back in history. So with that, calling the wheel of the year, it reminds me that it is the seasons that are our rituals. It is the seasons that ground us. It is the seasons that we anticipate. It is also the seasons that we experience. And Unitarians often identify those seasons in different ways, but so does our church. And so the rituals have come out of the seasons when we really look at it. When is the time that we do plantings? When is it the time that we, why is fall? Why is it we celebrate it at that point in time? Because the seasons are the rituals that we ground in, if you will. So I looked and reflected, and Gail Forsyth Vale, who is out of the UUA, wrote a paragraph or two, and I wanted to read it about UUs. Many of us like to point out our UU connections with well-loved Christmas music and rituals. Charles Follen introduced the first Christmas tree in the United States. Louisa May Alcott from Little Women sacrificed their own Christmas presents for impoverished neighbor children. Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol, celebrates the virtues of hearth, generosity, and merrymaking, or jingle bells. It came upon a night midnight clear, and I heard the bells on Christmas Day. All were composed by Unitarians. When I picked up a marvelous and very readable social history book, The Battle for Christmas by Stephen Nassenbaum, I learned the rest of the story. Nassenbaum takes us back through U.S. social history to a time when Christmas was an occasion for revelry and misrule, when Christmas carols were drinking songs, when people in lower social classes virtually invaded the homes of their wealthy patrons to receive food, drink, and presents in exchange for goodwill. He explains how, as the economic class divide deepened in the industrial economy, wealthier people harbored both fear of the lower classes, rioting, and guilt about and they also felt guilt about the conditions under which the poor people lived. Nissenbaum shows us the Universalists were among the first to embrace Christmas as a religious holiday, interesting enough, holding a Christmas service in Boston in 1789. The Unitarians were calling for public Christmas observances by 1800s, hoping to temper the general rowdiness of the season. Episcopalian Clement Clark Moore's myth-creating masterpiece, A Visit from St. Nicholas, was published in 1822, deliberately domesticated Christmas. Modern Christmas traditions centered on children, gift exchange, and charitable giving were born in those decades that followed. Our UU religious forebears were among those who created Christmas as we know it today. The growth of the family Christmas celebration, a festival of feelings, went hand in hand with the liberal religious embrace of childhood as a time to receive guidance and protection. Charity, given to strangers, became differentiated from presents, given to loved ones, and both became obligatory parts of the holiday. Romanticized notions about poverty helped reduce some of the guilt among charitable givers. Painters portrayed deserving recipients, meek, uncomplaining, grateful, and sometimes disabled. Children, such as Tiny Tim, perfectly filled the bill. So I had to ask myself, now that leads me and led me to reflect on our own rituals and celebrations that our own congregations have enjoyed over the years. How are we joining with the history of traditions introduced by early Unitarians? It also made me realize, I had someone ask me, why don't we publicize things more in our newsletters in advance? Why don't we let people know in our congregation what our rituals are? And I began to realize that I moved a lot when I was early and married. And the first year, everything was new, and I had no idea what was going on in that community. And the second year, people would start talking about things, and I go, oh yeah, we did that last year. You're right, I remember. And I got on board, and I knew what was happening. And the third year is when I knew what to expect. It took me 3 years, and that third year was settled in. And I've always reflected on giving myself that opportunity that when I join something new, it is a time period before you actually settle in to whatever those routines and rituals are of that community, because everybody has them, not just churches. We all have them in every organization. Every year we're going to have, and you're glass-eyed the first year, and the second year go, oh yeah, we did that last year. And the third year go, oh yeah, that's what we're doing. And there's a settlement. But each year in our congregation, we have musical services provided by our own talented members. And I remember when I first came to UU and I first came for Christmas, I said, how do UU celebrate Christmas if not everybody believes one thing? But I remember the first one that I attended and was surprised when music was the lesson. It was delightful. Once again, we have a music service this year again, totally, on New Year's Day, and it will be with Tom Botsford and Steve Guntner. Our church services have included the appreciation of other religious traditions by lighting the Advent candles, and next week we will also light the menorah. We've had evening concerts and bands on Christmas Eve. We have a candlelight service with readings and songs, with offerings designated to help our UU members in need throughout the year. We celebrate together with our adult gathering, and we have fun gift exchange. It's called a Dirty Santa. Whether you like it or not, it happens every year. You have a choice, you can join or not. And next Sunday, we will have that as well. And the children have their own holiday party at the same time. We have traditionally selected a nonprofit project to make donations to. And in the past, it was the Gulf Coast Kids House. And the past few years, it has shifted to teens in need, giving beyond ourselves. We have honored winter solstice, the longest day of the year. It signals the beginning of light to come with the more earth-based pagan tradition, honoring the cycles of the year and the Yule. However, we always have a Christmas tree, the honoring of the evergreen and continued life. The history of the Christmas trees goes back to the symbolic use of evergreens in ancient and Roman times, and it continues and continued with the German tradition of a candlelit Christmas trees first brought to America in the 1800s. Even though there was great suppression of the idea of a Christmas tree early in U.S. history, the adoptions of this ritual has far exceeded the fears that honoring those early pagan rituals and cycles of the year initially presented. Our own tree is decorated with white stars each year. And in case you haven't had a chance to read the light this year, I will share with you a story. As long as most UU members remember, the Christmas tree in the sanctuary has been decorated with white lights and white star ornaments. But what's the story behind them? Hannah Laurie and her late husband Victor handmade each and every one of them. In the 1920s, when Victor was growing up in Poland, he learned how to fold strips of paper to make the stars, also known as, and I probably will stumble on these words, Moravian. I'm looking for acceptance of that word, and foible Christmas stars. Each year, a new supply of white stars needed to be made as the stars from the previous year were not saved. Years later, Victor continued making stars for his family's tree here in Pensacola. In the 1990s, at a holiday gathering at the musical home, UUCP member Julian Bolivant asked Victor if he would make some for the church tree. Quality materials and teamwork went into making thousands of stars. Victor found a local paper supplier who would machine cut high-quality paper into the strips needed for the folded stars. Hannah Laurie did the final trimmings and finishing. Not only did Victor's stars decorate the church tree, but for many years he and Hannah Laurie crafted more stars, which were made available to members and friends in the church. I believe, and the story goes, they even had a fundraising with the stars. You could buy so many for a box of them. Stars grace homes every year in Orlando, Oregon, Montana, South Dakota, Colorado, North Carolina, Connecticut, Virginia, Germany, and now we have no idea how many more places those people have moved. So we thank Victor and Hannah Laurie for making our tree just UUCP's tree. And I think it's fascinating to me that there are sizes when you really look at it. There are sizes of, and I think ideally it was supposed to be small, medium, and large, and now if they just get on the tree, we're happy. And so let's sing "O Christmas Tree." It's in your song sheet, on your song sheet. Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, I love you so unchanging. Oh, Christmas tree. And you all know this song, and we for sure know the refrain, and it isn't, oh, Christmas. Come on. What is it? Oh, Christmas tree, you bring me. Oh, Christmas tree, such pleasure do you bring me. For every year this Christmas tree brings to us joy and glee. Oh, Christmas tree, such pleasure do you bring me. Oh, Christmas tree, you'll ever be unchanging. Oh, symbol of goodwill and love, you'll ever be unchanging. Each shining light, each silver bell, no one alive's first year so well. Oh, Christmas tree, you'll ever be unchanging. Thank you. And we're going to actually sing 2 more songs in this presentation, and just pretend that you're in your car and no one's listening, and you're singing at the top of your lungs because it happens to be a song that's so much fun, okay? So, I'm sorry?
Never mind.
Okay, our next slide. Isn't that the cutest little picture? I had no idea. It actually was a booklet. And so you know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, and actually I got this from an NPR interview, and I'm going to surmise what came from that interview. It was in December 2013 in the morning edition of NPR. And it was an interview that David Green did with a woman I'm going to tell you about. So you know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, and the list goes on and on. But Rudolph didn't come until 1939. So if you were born in 1939, you were born the year that Rudolph was born. Host David Green began to interview a woman named Barbara May Lewis. She was actually the daughter of Robert L. May, who was the originator of Rudolph. Rudolph, Barbara says, was born, and she was 5 when it happened. So she considers herself the big sister to Rudolph. Rudolph was only born as a character. He wasn't born as a person, but he was only born as a character. And she considers herself the big sister. Her father, Robert May, introduced the world to Rudolph when she was just a little girl, and Robert had grown up a bit of an outcast, just like Rudolph. He skipped a grade or 2, and so he was much younger and smaller than his classmates, which tells you he was probably very intelligent. Although he was called nerdy, and he saw himself as a loser. Robert always wanted to write the great American novel. As life would have it, he wound up being a catalog writer at Montgomery Ward in Chicago. I'm not sure he aspired to do that, but that's where he ended up, as life often takes us. The department store used to give away free books to kids each Christmas, and Robert May thought that Rudolph would be a great character in one of the books. And Barbara, his daughter, remembers her dad laboring over all the words, many of which would never make it into the song as we know it. But Montgomery Ward printed more than 2 million copies of Robert May's book that year, and it looked like this. He got letters from children, teachers, store managers from across the country. Nearly a decade later, the bosses gave May the rights to the story. Barbara, in the interview, said, "They must not have known what her dad had created." The likelihood is they would have held on to the rights. They thought it was just a silly little almost booklet. However, with the help of Robert May's brother-in-law, who just happened to be a songwriter, May eventually turned that silly little booklet into a song, one that was picked up by a very famous cowboy. A cowboy, imagine. It seems kind of funny, but Gene Autry was the first one to sing it. The song blew up in the charts in 1949, so 10 years after Rudolph was born. Next came the holiday film, which you all probably see, and there's probably been renditions of edits and changes and takeoffs. Altogether, Rudolph earned Robert May enough money to keep him and his family comfortable throughout the end of his life and beyond. Although the author passed away in 1976, the story of Rudolph, well, it went down in history. It continues to bring wonder in children to children everywhere, especially those who identify with the oddball character, which I think probably a lot of adults do as well. In the interview, Barbara said she gets a twinkle in her eye at holiday time when she sees other people embracing Rudolph, people who know nothing about her connection to this reindeer. And she said, I feel a little bit smug and think nobody knows who I really am. So we'll sing Rudolph, like you're in your car by yourself and it's on the radio. Are we ready? All right. Red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw him, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in reindeer games. And one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him as he shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll believe his story. Yes, thank you. And the next one, there is actually a historical basis for the traditional Christmas carol that we all know and love. It's called the 12 Days of Christmas. Christians have historically celebrated a period of 12 days surrounding Christmas. The nearly 2-week time period starts and ends with two pretty significant holidays, December the 25th and Epiphany, January 6th. Sometimes it also starts on January 6th for then 12 days, depending on the ritual of the religious honoring at that time. Christians believe that the 12 days mark the time it took for after the birth of Jesus for the Magi or the wise men to travel to Bethlehem for the Epiphany, when they recognized him as the Son of God. Again, the specific time period was likely part of the early church's effort to adapt the pre-Christian celebrations that helped the ancient Europeans get through the long winter night. Again, going back to what grounds us, the cycles of the wheel. The song we know today, the version that we know, it was written by a guy named Frederick Austin in 1909. It encompasses the words that we know today as well as a familiar tune. From there, once Christmas music became a thing, then you started having artists like Perry Como, John Denver, and the Muppets perform it. All of a sudden, it became something that everybody knew. And once you know it, You can't unknow it. The music library, the Christian music library, is rifled with versions and funny Christmas songs or parodies of this song. And all year round, it's not uncommon to hear someone say, "And a partridge in a pear tree," to the end of a comically long list. This is a song that has taken on many forms, and as generations come up, they put their own words to it. Some of them more appropriate words than other words, but we're going to do the traditional as was written originally, and we have some audience participation, I believe. Okay, so we're going to start with the 12 Days of Christmas, so you can look around. I chose not to have people stand up and down, except for one, just because, but you're welcome to stand if you have one of the cards, and we will sing along with you. You may stand or not, except for one special card. Okay, so we will sing the 12 Days of Christmas.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree. On the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 2 turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree. On the third
Detroit sports. My goodness. My goodness. It's nothing. I mean, there's nothing on the radio compared to this. Nothing at all on the radio compared to this. Thank goodness. And I would like to just say one thing about the artwork. I happen to be married to somebody that on the drop of a hand will say, I think I'm thinking about such and such, but I'm gonna need, and she does it. And I appreciate her for creating the signs. Thank you, Rose Kuhn. Now we will sing our closing hymn. I don't have a lot to say about this song, but I think it says it for itself. And then we will have the closing words and extinguishing the chalice. Once again, I want to acknowledge Chris Saunders for being here with us today and enjoying the live music that our piano can create and he can create with it. Okay, if you want to stand, we'll sing We Wish You a Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We've tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I'm reminded of the song, Don't Let the Light Go Out. And at this time, it is the light in the darkness that keeps us together and alive and well. So don't let the light go out. May it shine in you and us and share it with other people. Go in peace. And thank you for being here.